and welcome everyone to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 248 and today's topic is Air-Conditioningitis. If it's shortened, we also call it AC-itis. So, a lot of people suffer from air-conditioningitis during the summer season. That's because sometimes our body has a difficult time adjusting to the drastic temperature changes. You may be outside in the sun, or let's say in the summer, in Korea it gets as hot as, 30-some degrees. Let's say it's 36 degrees outside, and you all of a sudden walk into a building that's chilled, that's air-conditioned, and the temperature is set at maybe 21 degrees Celsius. Then your body will need some time to adjust to that temperature change. But we don't give our body enough time to adjust. We all of a sudden jump into or step into a very cold atmosphere, and those are the times our body sends signals and lets us know that it is in pain. So with air-conditioningitis, we often get headaches. Some people suffer from sore throats. Some people feel nauseated. And for most people, I would say, because vice versa, if you get so used to air-conditioned places, lower temperatures, even if you step outside at 28 degrees, you will start to sweat like crazy. Okay, so let's talk all about air-conditioningitis today. Let's begin with actual talk.
Hey Peter, have you ever heard of something called AC-itis or air conditioner-itis before?
I didn't until I came to Korea.
Yep.
I think they call it 냉방병 in Korean. And that's basically, they believe that if you're exposed to too much air conditioning, you can feel sick. You can feel basically really lethargic, run down, you can get a headache. There's all sorts of symptoms, similar to a common cold. But I'm not sure whether I believe it's an actual disease, but sometimes if I am exposed to the air conditioner for too long, like in one long stretch, I do start feeling under the weather.
I see. So the symptoms might be, as you're saying, feeling like you have a cold.
Yeah. Like a headache, you feel tired, you feel achy. Like especially if it's blowing directly on you.
And you think that purportedly the cause might be, I guess, the extreme temperature change?
Well, definitely, considering like it can be over 30 outside. You come into a well air-conditioned place, it could be like less than 20 degrees.
Yeah, I guess.
Your body's like shocked.
Yeah, I guess shocking your body. Like extremities are never good for your body. So going from hot to cold is probably a bad thing for your body.
Have you never suffered from AC-itis then?
I wonder. I think that I probably have, but I didn't know that it had that name.
Sure.
I mean, I do now.
Now you know what to label it.
I have a new vocabulary word, I guess. I do now. I know that there's been times when I've thought that the air coming out from the machine was not good for me or not clean.
Right.
But,
sometimes it smells odd.
It does if it's not clean. I know you have to clean them.
Sure. And I think some places don't clean it as regularly as they should, right?
I'm sure of it. Well, now I know what to call it now when I feel that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, give me a text next time you have AC-itis.
I will.
Today's actual talk conversation is about air-conditioningitis or AC-itis. Now, Kelly and Eugene talk about the symptoms of air-conditioningitis and how basically people suffer from AC-itis because of overexposure to air conditioning. We're so used to having our houses and offices and workplaces cooled down with air conditioning that it's very difficult sometimes to cope with the drastic temperature changes. So let's talk about what they mentioned in the conversation. Here we go. Kelly began by saying, "Hey Peter, have you ever heard of something called AC-itis or air conditioner-itis?" I think the proper term is air conditioning-itis, or even AC-itis. So AC-itis is short for air conditioning-itis. But since it was a term coined in Korea, I guess you can even call it air conditioner-itis. But much more commonly, you can use either of these. So Her question is, have you ever heard of something called AC-itis or air-conditioningitis? He laughs. And so she says, why are you laughing? Hey, why are you laughing? He says, I didn't until I came to Korea, meaning I didn't hear of anything called air-conditioningitis until I came to Korea. I think they call it 냉방병 in Korean. That's right. This is what it's called in Korean. And in English, it's somehow called air-conditioningitis. And basically, they believe that if you're exposed to too much air conditioning, you can feel sick. That is true. So air-conditioningitis is caused by overexposure to too much air conditioning. You can feel really lethargic, run down. Lethargic is a word that you would use when you are abnormally feeling a lack of energy. Now, there's tired and exhausted, right? But lethargic is very similar but different. Tired may be physically tired. You may be mentally tired too. Exhausted as well. You can be physically exhausted. Okay, but lethargic is a stronger word. It's really this kind of abnormal loss of energy. Okay, you have no energy to think, do anything, move around. So, lethargic people tend to feel or get lethargic or even run down. Run down is very similar as well. When you really have no energy left at all. For example, for a machine to run, which means to operate, it may need fuel or gas or electricity. Even human beings need some sort of energy to run, to operate, to function well. But, well, if you're run down, it means you have no energy to run on. So we'll go over the word and this pattern later on in more detail. You get a headache. He talks about the symptoms of air-conditioningitis. There's all sorts of symptoms, similar to a common cold. Okay, so these symptoms are very cold-like or very similar to the common cold. I'm not sure whether it's an actual disease, but sometimes if I am exposed to the air conditioner for too long, in one long stretch, meaning at once, I do start feeling under the weather. Under the weather is pretty easy. I'm sure you've heard of under the weather many, many times. It just means to feel ill, to feel not well, okay? So if you do not feel well and you're kind of feeling sick, you can say, oh, I'm under the weather or I'm feeling under the weather. It just means I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling sick. I'm feeling ill. So there are many symptoms, but these symptoms are very similar to cold symptoms. Now, Kelly says, I see. So the symptoms might be, as you were saying, feeling like you have a cold. The symptoms are very similar to the symptoms you would have when you catch a cold. So Peter says, yes, like a headache, you feel tired, and you feel achy. Okay. You've heard of the word ache. A-C-H-E, right? You can have an ache in your stomach, an ache in your shoulder, which means a pain in your shoulder, a pain in your stomach. But if you say you feel achy, it means that you are feeling a sense of pain all over your body. Usually a dull pain that is kind of continuous. So if you have this, not a sharp pain, but a dull kind of pain, a heavy pain that lasts a long time, you can say, oh, I'm aching all over, or I feel achy. Okay? So you can have a headache, you can feel tired, and you can feel achy as well. Kelly says, and you think that the cause might be the extreme temperature change? So she's saying, do you think it's because of extreme temperature changes? Peter says, well, definitely. It can be over 30 degrees outside, and you come into a well air-conditioned place, and it can be less than 20 degrees. So he's talking about outside, it's over 30 degrees, and then you come inside to an air-conditioned place where it's less than 20 degrees. So there is a huge gap. So what happens? Your body is shocked. Your body is suddenly shocked because of the drastic or the great temperature change. That is what he is saying. So Kelly says, yeah, I guess shocking your body, extremities are never good for your body. We're talking about extremities. Basically, we're talking about extreme conditions or circumstances. When we talk about great extremes, you can say extremities, okay? So she's saying that extreme things, extremities, anything to the extreme extent or the greatest extremes is not good for your body. It's never good for your body. So going from hot to cold is probably a bad thing for your body, okay? So going from hot to cold, meaning switching from hot to cold, okay? It's not good for your body. Peter says, have you never suffered from ACitis then? Okay, you may be wondering, wait a minute, Jen. Shouldn't it be, have you ever suffered from? Why is it, have you never suffered from? This is correct, okay? So he's just making sure. So you've never suffered from ACitis? Am I right? That's what he's asking. Have you never suffered from ACitis then? Kelly says, I think that I probably have. Maybe she has, but she says, I didn't know that it had that name, ACitis. Okay, so she's saying, I think that I probably have in the past suffered from ACitis, but I didn't know it was ACitis. So she is implying that she had suffered similar symptoms before due to extreme temperature changes, but back then she was not aware of ACitis. She did not know that there was such a thing called ACitis. So she's saying maybe it was ACitis, but I'm not sure. And she says, I do now, meaning I do know that there's something called ACitis, but back then I wasn't sure. So here, Peter says, sure. Now you know what to label it. Label here is what? In this case, it means to describe or classify in a word or a phrase. So label in this case is used in the verb form. It's not a noun. We often find labels on clothing, products that we buy that give us details, an explanation of maybe what the product is made of. But here he's saying, now you know what to label it, meaning, now you know what to call it. Now you know what to describe it as. So it's used in the verb form, okay? I guess since we've been talking about air-conditioningitis today, the next time you talk about this topic, you'll know what to talk about. Things you shouldn't do or things you could possibly do to, I guess, prevent yourself from suffering from air-conditioningitis. Anyhow, let's take a listen to the whole entire conversation one more time. Here it is.
Hey Peter, have you ever heard of something called ACitis or air-conditioneritis before?
I didn't until I came to Korea.
Yeah.
I think they call it 냉방병 in Korean. And that's basically, they believe that if you're exposed to too much air conditioning, you can feel sick. You can feel basically really lethargic, run down, you can get a headache. There's all sorts of symptoms, similar to a common cold. But I'm not sure whether I believe it's an actual disease, but sometimes if I am exposed to the air conditioner for too long, like in one long stretch, I do start feeling under the weather.
I see. So the symptoms might be, as you're saying, feeling like you have a cold.
Yeah. Like a headache, you feel tired, you feel achy. Like especially if it's blowing directly on you.
And you think that purportedly the cause might be, I guess, the extreme temperature change?
Well, definitely, considering like it can be over 30 outside. You come into a well air-conditioned place, it can be like less than 20 degrees.
Yeah, I
Your
guess.
body's like shocked.
Yeah, I guess shocking your body, like extremities are never good for your body. So going from hot to cold is probably a bad thing for your body.
Have you never suffered from ACitis then?
I wonder. I think that I probably have, but I didn't know that it had that name.
Sure.
I mean, I do now.
Now you know what to label it.
I have a new vocabulary word, I guess. I do now. I know that there's been times when I've thought that the air coming out from the machine was not good for me or not clean.
Right.
But,
sometimes it smells odd.
It does if it's not clean. I know you have to clean them.
Sure.
And
And
they're
I think some
expensive.
places don't clean it as regularly as they should, right?
I'm sure of it. Well, now I know what to call it now when I feel that way. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Okay, give me a text next time you have ACitis.
I will.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a better understanding of the actual talk conversation. Let's now take you to actual expressions. I have chosen, as always, some vocab words and phrases from the conversation, so let's take a look at it. Our topic is air-conditioningitis. It's a very long word, so remember, stress these two syllables, or these two parts of the word. Air-conditioningitis. Air-conditioningitis. One more time. Air-conditioningitis. It's basically a very cold-like symptom that you can suffer from due to what? Air conditioning. Too much air conditioning or overexposure to air conditioning. Let's move on to lethargic. Here we go with the stress. Goes on the second syllable, lethargic. Some synonyms are sluggish, even lazy people say, but I would say most definitely sluggish. Lethargic basically is when you feel like you don't have energy. No energy at all. Usually when you feel that you abnormally have no energy, you can say that you feel lethargic. Moving on to achy. Achy. It's two syllables. Achy is the way you pronounce it. Painful, sore, or even throbbing. As I mentioned, when you want to use the word achy, you might want to use it when you're talking about maybe pain, a throbbing pain that you have, or even when you feel a dull pain and it's kind of continuous. If you feel a heavy pain for a long time, you can say, oh, I'm feeling achy all over. Okay, let's move on to some more words. Extremity. Notice it's extremity. Stress goes right there. It's an I-K, ick sound, ick sound. Extremity means extreme condition or circumstance, or perhaps the greatest or most intense degree. Ultimate. Think of limit, or even a bit simpler, extremes. Label, we used it in the verb form. Label, label. It means mark, describe, brand, or identify. Now, of these synonyms also can be used in the noun form and the verb form. For example, a label in the noun form could be a mark as a noun. It can also be used in the verb form as to mark, means to, mark something in the verb form as well. To describe or even brand, meaning to give a name or even identify as. So label means to give a name or even a phrase to something, to call it. Label means to call something. Let's take a look at run down. Now, if you see that something is run down, a person can feel run down or be run down. But keep this in mind. If you say that you are run down, you are saying that you are ill or in poor health condition. You're not doing well, okay, health-wise. But if you say that something is run down, you're saying that it is in very poor condition because it's either very old or because proper care has not been taken. So if a building is very old and it looks like it's not been taken care of, you can say, oh, that building looks run down. So here is a sample sentence. You can say, the building looks somewhat run down. The building somewhat looks run down. Basically, you're saying it's in very bad condition because of age or lack of care. The building looks somewhat run down. What about feel or just to be under the weather? Under the weather means what? You're feeling ill. You're not feeling well. Okay? Here is a sample sentence. I feel a bit under the weather. I'm going to step outside for a couple of minutes. Say, for example, since we're talking about air-conditioningitis, if you're in your office or if you're at school and it's air conditioned, and because of air conditioning, you feel tired and lethargic, you have a headache, you really are starting to feel ill and you want to go outside to breathe in the fresh air. In that case, you can say, I feel a bit under the weather. I'm kind of feeling sick. Maybe I should go outside for a couple of minutes. I'm going to step outside. Means I'm going to go outside for a short period of time and just to get some air. Okay, so I guess that about does it for today's actual expression segment. Practice these patterns and vocab words more on your own.